Hi, I'm Amy Snell, and today I'm going to talk to you about an alternate way of doing the cast-on commonly known as Judy's Magic Cast-On. If you're already familiar with that cast-on, you'll recall that when we knit the second row of stitches, we need to knit them through the back loop because they're mismounted on the needle. Casting on this way corrects that, and so you don't need to worry about knitting anything through the back loop. Let's begin. A lot of you might be familiar by starting with a slip knot. That's actually not necessary. I'm just going to wrap the yarn once around the needle that's farthest away from me. I've got the tail of my yarn over my index finger and the working yarn over my thumb. That's the opposite of what we do for a long tail cast on. All right, I'm going to start by pivoting the needles away from me so that the nearer needle crosses over that yarn on my index finger, and then both needles go down, and I bring them up, allowing the yarn to slip between the two tips. Now as I make my thumb stitch, I'm going to actually bring the needles down with the yarn between them first, then continue to point them toward me, and now wrap the yarn this direction. That's how we avoid that mismounted stitch. We go up, we bring both needles over the yarn toward my index finger and bring the yarn between them. And as we go down, we bring the yarn between them, then we wrap. Going up again, both needles pointing all the way past the yarn, wrapping and bringing it between the needles. Now pivoting the needles toward me, bringing the needle tips down, continuing to pivot toward me, and bringing the needles up to wrap. Do that one more time in each direction. And one final stitch over the index finger so that we have the same number of stitches on each needle. Now I'm ready to knit my first row. The first thing I need to do is turn my needles. I turn them clockwise. Then I bring this lower needle out of the way and get ready to knit across the stitches on this top needle, making sure that I've crossed the tail of my yarn with my working yarn. Otherwise, I won't have a secure stitch to knit on that first stitch. Go ahead and knit those first 4 stitches. And then again, turn my work clockwise. Bringing the bottom needle out of the way, the top needle up to get ready to work the stitches. And here is where, if we had done a typical magic cast on, we would have mismounted or backwards mounted stitches. We don't have that here. We can just knit across these in the typical way. And if you'd like to know more about mismounted or backwards mounted stitches, I teach all about those in my class Basic Knit Fixes. If you'd like to know more about sock knitting, you can take any of my sock skills classes. Check my website, deviousknitter.com, for information on my upcoming classes and appearances and other knitting tutorials.